The sounds of thunder echoed throughout Adventure Bay. A symbol of falling rain was not stopping anytime soon. The sky was darkened with gray clouds, doing well to match the tension that seemed to fester throughout the city. Despite the feeling of lingering dread and spiking paranoia, many continued to write off the feeling as just nerves. Nerves. Being dogs, most of the Paw Patrol had a sudden urge to go out and splash in the rain, kick up mud, and toss a ball around. It was only out of respect of Rocky's fear of water that they chose to stay inside. Not wanting to leave him alone, however, Zuma volunteered to venture out in the rain to gather supplies or anything else they need. "Does anyone else think the rain is oddly relaxing?" Marshall inquired, pressing his paws up against the window. "I always sleep better under it. It's almost hypnotic." "Yeah, it's nice until your kennel flood's over." Rocky looked up from his bowl of food. "And you become trapped in a box of wet death." "Water isn't deadly. We do need it to live after all." The Dalmatian turned back. "So flash floods don't exist anymore?" "You know what I mean." Being contained, the lookout wasn't entirely deeming, but one couldn't deny the pups were becoming a tad unhinged from the isolation. Marshall kept longing to be outside, Rocky flinched at the crack of thunder, Rubble kept pacing around, Sky was sneezing and wrapped up in a blanket, and Chase was oddly staring off into space. It seemed odd that the shepherd was wearing his pup pack, not too odd enough to keep the pike of curiosity of everyone else. "Hey Sky, how are you feeling?" Marshall walked over, seeking to end the bickering with the mixed breed and with the conversation. "Bad," she wheezed. "It's like hot and cold at the same time." She pulled the blanket further over herself. The Dalmatian gave a warm smile, lying down on all fours. "Zuma should be back with some snacks soon. Maybe hot chocolate?" "Marshall, we're dogs. We can't have chocolate," Chase said from across the room. "Oh," the spotted dog blinked. "Maybe just something warm then." The overheard barrage from the rain was briefly interrupted with a large slice of thunder tearing throughout the sky. Rocky visibly jumped for a split second. All heads turned to the mix, and the gray dog bowed his head in shame with the crestfallen expression. Marshall gently moved to his friend's side and patted him sympathetically. No one saw Chase raise an eyebrow at that exchange, watching the two dogs as if it was studying them. "You all right?" asked the Dalmatian. The mix gave a faint shrug. "Just wishing I wasn't a coward all the time." "You're not a coward, though." "Marshall, that is not even the slightest bit true." The mixed breed bit back with my slight attitude. "You saw how I reacted the other day when we came up on that roadblock. For someone who went through what you did, I'd say it's justified." Sky chimed in, momentarily looking over. Rocky waved off the comment. "And besides, all you do actual rescues, chases the police force, you fight fires, and are trained in medical care," he said, pointing at Marshall. "Zuma was born to live in the one thing I'm definitely afraid of. Sky could fly, and Rubble's the construction pup." "What's so dangerous about construction?" Rubble turned with a confused expression. "I don't know," the mix confessed. "You wear that hard hat, so I assume that things fall on you." The bulldog looked to his side with a shrug. "Well, that's true. That's why we all wear them. But if we follow regulation, it usually doesn't happen." "Whatever. I'm just a dog who picks up trash." "Rocky, you're not," Marshall tried to say. "No, forget it," the mix interrupted. "One day I'll do something worthy." His own frown turned into a determined smile as he puffed out his chest. "One day I'll do something and get a shining medal." "We don't get medals, though," Chase said again in a dry tone. All three of them continued back and forth for a few minutes, while Sky tried to drown out the noise. Rubble merely shook his head at the bickering, something had seen countless times before. He had made a decision to stay out of it this time, and walked to the window to blankly gaze outside. His eyes fell on the shape moving through the rain, and he jumped excitedly. "Zuma's back!" Sky looked up in a wary state, and got the trifecta of arguing dogs finally divided, much to the others' relief. They gathered around the main elevator as Zuma arrived, Chase noticeably keeping a few paces back. The elevator doors opened, revealing a dripping, soaking wet Labrador, dragging a tied plastic bag, and Rocky went eye-wide. "Everyone get back!" Rocky called, immediately withdrawing. Relax, I already shook myself off. Zuma walked in, laughing nervously. Zuma was infamous for a certain prank he loved pulling on the rest of the team. He soaked himself either from getting out of the water, or just leaving a bath, hunt down someone else, and shake the water off with his puppy-sized might. It was only that they were spared, though all of his fur was still slightly puffed from the water. What did you bring us? Marshall gleefully wagged his tail, already nosing for the bag. Treats mostly, and some packages of dog food, the lab nodded. There were a few hints of silence in the air. Then everyone suddenly picked up their heads, staring at Zuma in bewilderment. The chocolate lab sat for a few moments, trying to dry himself off. Then he realized everyone was staring at him. What? He asked in confusion. Did you say treats? Marshall gawked. You pronounced the R. You did perfectly. Zuma recoiled slightly red as he was suddenly surrounded. Yeah, I've been working on it. Kinda am not too good at it, though. But you're doing great. That's amazing. Rocky wagged his tail, ignoring being so close to the water-coated dog. As everyone showered Zuma in praise, Chase kept back a few feet, scanning the laboratory up and down. Odd for Zuma to suddenly not have his impediment. He narrowed his eyes, trying to get a read on his friend. His mind rung out a splitting noise in his eyes. He quickly shook his head, shaking the thought away. Of course Zuma would want to mature himself. It wasn't a red flag that something was amiss. The shepherd had almost cursed himself into thinking such a haunting scenario. But the static in his head wasn't quieting. I take it the storm wasn't too bad, Marshall said as he quickly sniffed out the treats. Sounds scary out there. Well, it wasn't too bad, Zuma shrugged. Most of the roads are flooded, but I could swim through with ease. Rocky rolled his eyes. You could swim through anything. That's no surprise. Was everyone else okay out there? Chase remembered to ask, tilting his head. That storm must be hitting them hard. I stopped by Mr. Porter, the lab explained, as Rocky draped a blanket over him. Most of his phone lines were dead, and his restaurant had some broken windows. We'll have to be sure to help them fix everything up, Rocky nodded. I just wish we could contact Ryder. I hope our call service is fixed up soon. Chase rolled his eyes. I think we could safely assume we won't have Ryder's help in this. Marshall turned at the police dog, giving him a confused look. But there's more, Zuma continued. Mr. Porter seemed... He looked into the ground for the moment, searching for the right word. Afraid. He didn't want to come outside, so I just met him at the door. I thought everything was scared of the rain, but it was something else. Sky and Marshall picked up their heads, going eye-wide and bearing their full attention. Rocky stepped back, fear flooding in his face as he prepared for the worst. The mixed breed had already been through enough, and he wasn't looking forward to another disaster. Rubble merely raised an eyebrow, curious of what Zuma's information. Chase slowly got up and gently circling the group, flicking his gaze around each dog. He didn't seem to want to tell me at first, but all he said was to me to get home and lock myself in, he said, licking his paw. But I kept pressing him, and he eventually told me. Apparently someone died. The group shot back in alarm. From the storm? Rocky cried. No, it's from something different. Zuma shook his head, and Chase tilted his head, taking a step closer. He told me about sounds he was hearing outside when he was going around the store and locking everything down. He thought a pup was crying to be let in, so he trekked outside in the rain to try to help. Oh no, Marshall whimpered, visibly fearful. But there wasn't anything, just a trail of blood that led away. Sky withdrew into her blanket. Zuma, please stop with the horror stories. It's not a story, Zuma protested. Porter tried to follow it, but he turned back when the trail led into the forest. Zuma's final words cut to Chase, nearly making him lose his balance. The voices of others quickly died away as Chase felt sick, having to turn his head away in case he started vomiting. Horror spewed over him as his mind flashed image after image, screaming noise after noise. It was in the forest, Zuma had said, that his supposed blood trail had vanished into. Such a location was not far from Chase's secret weapon bunker, putting his possible murder close to the Paw Patrol than he liked to imagine. None of the others knew the Vurox Malls. None of his friends were aware of the horrible danger. For the killer to disappear in close range of the lookout could only mean one thing. Please, no, Chase slightly pleaded, too low for anyone to hear. There were more ways he tried to reason with himself. The louder in his head screeched out in static. He couldn't wait any longer. He had to be sure right here and right now. If things went south, he was still carrying his concealed weapon in his pup pack, and he needed to take control of the situation. "I'll be right back," he suddenly called out, and everyone turned their heads. "Wait, you're going out there?" Rocky exclaimed. "Into the storm? Are you crazy?" "Chase, you'll get sick out there," Marshall tried to reason, give a low whine. The police dog merely pushed past them. "I just need to get something." The remaining 5 looked in confusion as the elevator doors closed, and Chase descended down into the storm outside. "What's he on about?" Rubble muttered as he withdrew back as Sky let out a sneeze. "Not sure," Marshall shrugged, "but she's been on edge since that mission of ours that got interrupted." Rocky hung his head at that statement, and a tired expression on his face. "Please do not remind me of that experience." "It's true, though," the Dalmatian nodded, thinking over the past few days. "I wonder if he's hiding something." The air turned tense as Marshall's suggestion hit the air. Faint mutters among the group. It seemed like Chase had to deceive them, yet none could deny that there was a sliver of a possibility. "Why don't we just ask him?" Sky stood up. "Confront him directly." "If I was being lied to, I'd want to know." Zuma nodded. "Let's do it." "Here he comes." Rocky pointed out the window, already looking irritated himself. It was already an explosive week, and the thought of his friend going behind his back could only ruin even more for him. All the heads turned as Chase emerged from the elevator doors, soaking wet and carrying a small bag. "Chase," Rocky began, although took a step back from the puddles the shepherd was causing. "Can we ask you something?" "Not yet," the police dog denied, then sat down the bag. "Well, it's just..." Marshall looked at the floor. "You haven't really been around lately, and why are you wearing your pup pack?" The shepherd merely shrugged off the question. "No reason." He began nosing through the bag, revealing a small handheld device. "Hey, I need you guys to do something for me." "What's that?" Zuma squinted at the small device. Chase picked up the device in his mouth and looked out to his friends. "I promise this will be quick and easy. I just need your blood." Silence. Chase stood there awkwardly as all 5 dogs recoiled in shock from Marshall's mouth agape. The shepherd gave a small sigh, knowing this wouldn't be easy, but it was all for the greater good. All he needed was a solid proof that nothing was hiding inside them. Maybe the static screaming in his head would finally clear away. A solid few seconds went from before someone spoke up. "You want our what?" Sky questioned, dumbfounded look on her face. "Why the hell would you want us to bleed?" Rocky stepped back further. Both Marshall and Zuma barked questions on their own, but they spoke at the same time as their words overlapped. Rubble was frozen in shock, flicking his eyes around, trying not to understand the situation. Chase tried to answer at them one at a time, but could barely get a word out before the uproar began. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Rocky barked again, ears flattened. "Rocky, wait!" Chase tried to control the situation. "You vanish for hours at a time and come back with this?" Zuma bristled, his fur began to spike. "Why would you even say that?" As he peddled with more questions, Chase was growing increasingly stressed, and the hostility of his own was beginning to flare. His ears flattened down as he nearly bared his teeth. "Can you just let me explain what this is?" "Fine, please explain," Sky snapped, and everyone held their tongues. Chase furiously searched for an easy way to put it. "I need you all to take a blood test." "Why?" the cockapoo demanded. "Because to make sure nothing is hiding inside you," the shepherd snapped, baring his teeth, then instantly drew back as he realized what he had just said. The situation had not been made any easier than just then. Expressions of horror spread among his friends. "Why the fuck would something be inside us?" Sky snarled. "Are you out of your mind?" Chase shook his head, trying to hold Sky's gaze. "No, listen to me. I've been talking to ACG." "What?" Rocky erupted. "What do you mean you've been talking? Can everyone just listen to me?" The shepherd had to bark over the commotion. "I know why they're here. There's a creature loose in the city, and they've tasked me with..." "Tasked?" Sky echoed. You're taking orders from them now? Whose side are you on? The friendly atmosphere of the lookout was gone. Between the 6 dogs and the furious shouting match had begun, and quickly rising. Chase was surrounded by 5 dogs, who all demanded answers. You're not listening. I'm trying to help all of us. By siding with the savages? Marshall demanded. After what they did to you and Rocky? Okay, I was wrong. I could see that. Oh, that was wrong, Sky pointed out. You admit that one time was wrong, but you completely sided with them, isn't it? Sky, there is a creature loose in Adventure Bay. Oh, that's complete and utter bullshit, Rocky snarled, jumping forward to join the argument. Did they tell you that? They showed me photos, Chase protested. I've seen it. It's a monster that can hide inside of living things. That's why I need your blood for the test. But why would you keep that from us? Sky pleaded, deeply hurt inside. I had to, he argued. It was a confidential agreement. But that's all. There are no secrets. No other secrets? Zuma now joined in. How about we talk about you keeping a massive room load full of weapons in the forest? All dogs reared back in even further surprise. At this point, they could barely believe what they were hearing. Upon realizing Zuma had just broken their secret, Chase exploded in rage. Zuma! He snarled furiously. You said you keep that between us. You have a room full of loaded weapons? Marshall exclaimed with fearful expression. I thought it was just a normal friend-between-friend kind of secret. The blab barked angrily. But clearly you're keeping it from us something. Don't drag me into your lies. I'm not lying, Chase yelled, flexing his claws as his fur bristled. I went there to get a weapon. I need one. Why in the living hell do you need a weapon? Sky got up, now approaching Chase. The shepherd instantly backed up to the wall, as if Sky was hostile and trying to provoke him. It all made sense. Everything made sense, and it only made him angrier. Without a doubt, one of his friends was infected. Otherwise, they wouldn't be acting like this. It was so obvious that Chase was in the right. Everyone knew how much he sacrificed to keep Adventure Bay safe. It was their own fault that they infringed on his progress. The white noise that impeded through his mind had finally begun to take shape, quieting down the static, giving Chase a faint hope in this decision. He was now fully confident that the killer was in front of him. He just had to know who it is. Get away from me, Chase warned, snarling his teeth. All of you, get away! Sky's hostility didn't falter. She just merely pressed forward. What? Why, Chase? I'm just asking a reasonable question. The shepherd flicked his eyes to each dog before him, trying to furiously read each one. His teeth were clenched together, his ears were flat against his head, and it gave the impression that it didn't drive any. He surveyed each one, his pupils narrowing, almost as feral instinct took over his mind. Marshall's horrified expression, Rocky's defensive stance, Zuma's angered expression, Rubble's look of concern, and Sky, whom he knew was challenging him. The static, the noise, and the screaming of his head erupted into a symphony of agony that overpowered by any other sound that could enter his ears. Rough ammunition! Chase barked in command, and the mechanical arm shot out of his pup pack, carrying the small, semi-auto pistol. Oh my God! Rocky jumped, streaming backwards. Chase, why do you have that? Sky's hostility immediately shut off as she recoiled back in horror. Zuma went eye-wide and almost froze in place. Rocky's instinctively jumped in front of Marshall. Chase, have you lost it? Which one? Chase snarled, now aiming the gun around. I know it's one of you. Marshall fell to the floor and covered his face, already beginning to cry. The mixed breed above him stood firmly in his ground, as everyone else now tried their hardest to reassure the shepherd. Dude, calm down, Zuma pleaded, holding his paws up. Let's all take a deep breath and... Why can't you suddenly speak perfectly? Chase whipped out around to the lab. Why, Zuma? Why are you magically able to pronounce words suddenly? That's not you. What are you talking about? The lab drew back. I told you I've been working on that. And you, the shepherd snapped his head towards Sky. You've been sick for at least 2 weeks. Why now? Sky held a paw defensively, but still tried to take a step forward. I don't know, Chase. I don't know the answers to your questions. Of course you don't, he growled. No, I'm just as clueless as you are. She tried to say reassuringly, let's all just calm down and we can all figure these things out. I am not clueless, Chase snapped. I know what's going on, and don't you try to think more than me. We didn't say that, Sky replied, trying to defuse the shepherd. We haven't said anything like that. Please put the gun down. No, snarled the police dog. I know it's one of you. Chase, you're scaring Marshall, Rocky shouted, putting a paw on the quivering Dalmatian. Look, Chase, Sky tried to reason, moving towards her close friend while she tried to keep her voice from shaking. Just look at me. The armed dog snapped his gaze to her, a wild, detached look on his constricted pupils. You're right, she said slowly. You're right, there is something wrong here, and the best way to find it is if we take it slow, so I'm coming over to you, and we're going to put the gun down, okay? She stared at him with a desperate look in his eyes. You can trust me. Trust? What was there to trust anymore? What was trust when one of your friends could have something terrible hiding inside them? He knew what Sky was doing. He knew what it was doing. It was trying to disarm him, as if it gained the upper hand. Every single one of his beloved friends would die. He couldn't let that happen. Chase gave a bristling look at Sky, wordlessly arriving in his own mind. Chase, Sky said softly, moving forward. The shepherd instantly brought the gun forward and pulled the trigger. The deafening sound of a gunshot screamed throughout the tower, prompting a cry from Marshall as the rest fell to the floor, covered their heads. Chase shut his eyes from the noise, his ears ringing from the piercing sound. 2 seconds went by, and Chase slowly opened his eyes and centered his vision around the dead body that now lay in the tower. The rest of the dogs also began to slowly come to, shaking away from the ring in their ears and opening their eyes. One by one, horror reared among them as they all laid eyes on the bloody body sitting on the floor. In all that second, all the static in Chase's head suddenly cleared, and his mind had returned to the state of calm. Although his heart was pounding looking before him, his heart sunk to the deepest depths, a sickening feeling boiling in his stomach. His ferocity and feral drive quickly vanished, and Chase stared in horror at what he had done. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.